Hey everybody, it's Tom Duff with Mental Health Matters, the podcast by St. Louis Counseling that helps break down stigma and makes mental health okay to talk about around the dinner table or the water cooler. So if you're curious about our services, check us out at stlouiscounseling.org. So as always, I get a lot of questions from people, right? And so as a therapist myself that's in this role as executive director, I meet lots of people, I know people, and a lot of times I'm hearing this comment of, what is anxiety? Don't we all have anxiety? I have anxiety. Why do people have to go get help for anxiety? I don't get it. And then I have other people that say, I have anxiety and it's starting to impact me. And when do I know I should go get some help and talk about, do I need medication? So I hear both sides of the coin right there. And a lot of it comes back to is, what is debilitating anxiety? What is that level of functioning that gets in the way? So a lot of times you hear me say about a diagnosis or an issue that somebody's feeling that, well, if there's a noticeable change in behavior, a pattern that is out of the ordinary, is getting in the way of your normal functioning, then you need to go seek help. So to kind of get a little bit more specific with that and with anxiety. So here's some symptoms of anxiety that would be like some areas to really think about going to see a doctor, a psychiatrist, or a therapist. So bottom line is severe headaches, right? Nauseousness that results in vomiting. You're getting sick, physically sick because of your anxiety and the thoughts that are overwhelming you. Dizziness. Trembling with your hands, your feet, your voice, intrusive thoughts. So you can't maintain a single kind of thought or a project, and you have a bunch of these intrusive thoughts popping into your head, a lot of what ifs and things of that nature. Avoidance. So you're not going out to socialize, you're not going to school, you're not going to work, you're staying inside, or when you do go to work, you're able to get to work, but you don't want to be around anybody. So it's that isolation level of that. Obsessive thoughts. So you kind of heard me talk about those intrusive thoughts, but obsessive thoughts also could just be your mind is spinning on one thing, right? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Am I going to get sick? If I go out in public, maybe it's a social anxiety issue. If I go out in public, am I going to get sick? Are people going to make fun of me? And you just can't stop talking about that or thinking about that from that perspective. Maybe you have like really tight muscles and you're tense all the time. A lot of times you find people and their shoulders are up. That's one thing. I find myself, if I'm stressed out, I know I carry a lot of stress in my shoulders, and after a while when I realize, like, wait a minute, I'm feeling kind of stressed, and I think about my body and I'm like, oh, I got to relax my shoulders. So, but you might be just tense overall, every part of you, right? And so when we talk about this debilitating symptoms to anxiety, those are some of the ones. Now, everybody's different, and that's the thing to remember. And you may have only one of those symptoms. You may have a ton of those symptoms and behaviors. So those are all things that are going to point you towards getting some help. And certainly, if you have difficulty keeping a job, going to school, being involved in any type of activities, whether it be socially or just family activities, those are all things when we talk about difficulty with experiencing this change in behavior and this level of functioning. So going back to that original question of, doesn't everyone have anxiety? Yes, I believe everyone has some level of anxiety. Anxiety does not have to be a bad word, right? Anxiety can also challenge you. It can help you rise to the occasion. And there's a lot of normalcy to just doing something out of your normal day of functioning, right? Or your normal activities. So we always talk about the fear of public speaking. Yeah, I can totally see that. If you never, ever go in front of people to speak, and then all of a sudden you have to do that, and let's say you're in your 40s or something, all of a sudden you have to go talk to 75 people about some project or accomplishment that you did. Of course, it's going to raise a little bit of concern, like, hey, wait a minute, I've never done that. That's anxiety. That's some anxious thoughts. So yes, we all have anxiety, but for some, there's a huge struggle to calm yourself through there, to cope with those issues, and to be able to kind of walk yourself through that. And it's a myriad of different issues, right? There's genetics involved. There's environmental aspects involved to that. If you're in an environment full of trauma, if you're in an environment full of just anxious people, that can affect you, and you can be conditioned to experience some of those symptoms as well too. So there's many different factors on why people have anxiety, but at the same time, there's normalcy to that. So some of those symptoms I listed out, if those are areas that you're perplexed about, take a look at that. And a lot of times when you come to therapy, let's say you got just awful headaches, you get awful headaches a certain time of day. Yeah, we need to rule out a medical condition that's causing that. But sometimes it could be the level of anxiety and the emotional turmoil that's going on inside of you that's creating the headache, the level of stress that you may be dealing with. People that are anxious have a extreme amount of just exhaustion. And it's emotional exhaustion is what it is, because on the inside, they're dealing with all these different emotions going back and forth, thoughts going all the way around, and they're trying to manage that. So on the outside, they can function with their job, with their school. But on the inside, they're tired. So by the end of the day, maybe by the end of school, by the end of their work day, when they get home, they're, often I hear that from parents who say, my kid does amazing in school, and then when they come home, they're a terror around the place. What's going on? How can they be so perfect in school, but then when they get home, they're just everywhere. They're mouthy, they're tired, they're cranky. Well, the reality is that takes a lot of emotional control during the course of the day for them to succeed in school, because they feel the pressure to succeed in school. They want to succeed in school. They don't want to be looked at and bullied and by somebody that's different because they let their anxiety out. So when they get home, they're in a safe haven. They're around you as a parent. They're around comfortability. They're around their own bedroom, maybe siblings. And even though they love you, they care about you, they're just finally ready to let go. And as a child, it's easy to do. So anxiety is it's such an interesting diagnosis. And it's interesting because we all have some level of it. It's just some have to deal with that. So what I'm encouraging you all to do is to, one, be okay with having anxiety, because we all have it. Two, be okay with other people not showing this anxiety the same way you do. So that means it's okay if you see someone else struggling, and to not judge them in the sense of like, well, I can handle my anxiety, why can't they? Because you don't know their story. You don't know where they're coming from. So be honest with that, right? And then I encourage you, if you have symptoms of anxiety that I kind of outlined here, and those are some of the severe ones, right? Because I had some questions about that from people, and I want to put this out there. But if you have those symptoms, seek some help, because anxiety is also one of the easiest diagnosis to get your hands around and to help people walk through, whether it be some medication, or sometimes it's just a matter of some cognitive coping skills that can be put into place. So if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out to us at stlouiscounseling.org. And until next time, this is Tom Duff, Mental Health Matters.